Ordinary Madness, episode 12. I am Steve Barker, and with me today is the host of Art Zone, Nancy Guppy, as well as a cast member of the sketch comedy show Almost Live. So welcome, Nancy.
Hey, great to be here. I noticed you've got like a Canadian, like a little leaf on your arm. Is that a tattoo?
It is a tattoo.
Are you Canadian?
I am, yeah.
From where?
Well, born in Vancouver, but my parents were there on business. So basically when I was 6 months old, moved to Toronto. And actually this tattoo is only about 3 weeks old.
Let me see. Where'd you get it done? Who did it?
I went to Laughing Buddha.
Where's that?
It's right on Broadway. But actually my parents were in town about 2 weeks ago, and my father and I were at... Have you ever been to Chopsticks in Queen Anne?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Lower,
super fun.
Lower Queen Anne,
yeah. So my dad and I were there.
Singing with the piano people?
Oh, we weren't singing.
Okay.
But, we were enjoying...
Dueling pianos.
Yeah, we were enjoying some beverages, and I kind of threw it out there like, hey, Dad, we should get matching tattoos.
Did you do it? He did too?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Did he get one on his butt?
No. He actually got the full leaf on his bicep. But yeah, it was something I kind of just threw out there, not
thinking at all that he'd take the bait.
Yeah, and actually he was kind of like, oh, maybe, our mother, your mother would kill us. And I was like, yeah, And then actually the next day, I met them for breakfast at Charlie's.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, so do you know of any good tattoo places around here? And I was like...
He got the okay from the mom.
Yeah, I was like, really? And
from the old lady.
He's like, yeah, let's, I'm ready to do it. Let's go do it. And I was like, I don't have any other tattoos.
That's it. And it's a fairly simple one, may I say. It's just an outline of it's just the outline of the leaf, and it's tiny.
Right. Yeah.
And he went for the full meal deal in his upper arm.
Yeah, he's got the full flag on his arm. And, my mom, she gave us the exact mom thing of, well, it's your bodies.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah,
Thanks
she actually, when we went and did it, she didn't want to be a part of it, so she just went to Elliott Bay and, read some books. But
that's adorable. I like that.
I never thought I would get a tattoo, and if I was, getting it with my father,
doesn't get better.
It's the only...
That's the way to do it.
Reason to actually...
that's the way to do it.
Get a tattoo.
Hear that, kids? Do it only with your father.
Exactly. But enough about me. Let's talk about Art Zone.
All right.
Which airs on the Seattle channel at 8 o'clock and also gets rerun pretty regularly. That's right.
Yeah, it does. And we air on both Channel 21, the Seattle channel, which is where we produce it through, and also Channel 9, KCTS, airs it Friday nights, like at 10:30 or 11 or 11:30, depending on what's playing before that. So we actually air on two different stations.
Oh, okay. Actually, I think I saw it. Last time I saw on Channel 9, the one with Emmett Montgomery.
Oh, yes.
Who's actually been on this podcast before, yeah.
Funny guy, man.
Oh, hilarious.
He is so funny. Just that wonderful deadpan, weird, creepy, but just awesome. You know, I love it.
Well, and I think you actually said on your thing, everybody describes him as creepy, but he wants to be described as friendly, which he is.
He is so friendly. He's
guy.
Totally friendly, yeah. Yeah, so we we do about 32 shows a year, and we're kind of on a school schedule. So we start kind of mid-September, and we go through mid-June. So, yeah.
And how long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been doing this show for about three and a half years, and it kind of evolved about, in early 2000, I developed a little show called City of Go-Go. It was a 5-minute art show that aired on Channel 21 and on Channel 9. And that was like little tiny, little profile pieces on artists, little teeny tiny calendar. I mean, obviously crunched down into 5 minutes. And actually to do it, to get the funding for it, I borrowed money from my dad to make a little pilot. Speaking of nice fathers, tattoos or giving you loans. And made a pilot, and then we got the okay to do it. So that's what I did for like a year and a half or so, and then some money. I can explain it to you if you're interested. But some money. Okay, so some money came into the Seattle channel. Basically, Comcast, which is the cable provider. Oh God, I hope this isn't horribly boring, but okay, I'm gonna make this really succinct. The cable provider for the city is Comcast, right?
Yeah.
So they get their license renewed every 10 years or something. So when it came up time for renewal, the guy who was the station manager of the Seattle channel at that time, his name is Gary Gibson. He's retired now. He's a great guy. he approached Comcast and said, hey, would you guys consider, completely separate from what you're going to pay to get your license renewed, would you consider giving some money for arts programming? And they said yes, which was a very good public relations move on their part, right?
Yeah.
So they gave a chunk of change that is spread out over 10 years. So we get a little piece of that to do Art Zone on a yearly basis. It's not a ton, but it's enough. I mean, that's how we got started. And so that's how that whole thing works. And we've done, like I said, 3 years. I think we've done over 100 episodes. So.
Right. And so you're more than just the host. You also produce and do you write some of the segments as well?
Well, the way it works, I mean, we have kind of a, the way it works, Steve. Well, let me tell you about that. We're in a studio, right? So we're coming from like, hi, welcome to the show. We're in the studio at the Art Zone. So we kind of have this little set. And then, so I write the show as much as I write all my intros and outros. I write the interviews and stuff, but those things are all just kind of amorphous anyway. I mean, an interview with somebody just like with you and me, you know some stuff you might want to ask me, but who knows how it's going to go. Right. So, but yeah, I do. I basically write the show. There's a little calendar segment on every show. I write that, and I curate all the images I need, and I voice the calendar. And then I also produce it. I produce it with Sheila Mullen. Sheila Mullen is my producer, and she's a phenomenal, probably the best producer I know. And so we are the ones that are curating the show and finding segments or choosing who we're going to cover. And then we've got some in-house people at the Seattle channel who are shooter editors who do some of the pieces for us. Like if we want to do a piece on you, for example, and this guy who does this groovy podcast. Right. So we would assign a shooter editor. Either it would be an in-house Seattle channel person, which, by the way, I'm a freelancer. I'm not an employee of the Seattle channel, but I'm just hired as a freelancer. So we'd have an in-house person, or we'd bring in one of our really fantastic freelance shooter editors that we work with out in the world who work a lot of different kind of jobs. But we basically choose all of our subjects.
Cool. So how does choosing the artists, how does that come about? Because I know
money. Whoever will pay us.
Right.
No. How does it? Go ahead. You were saying.
But you just seem like you're you're at all the hip events.
Oh yes, I'm at all the hip events.
Are you just out there and you're like, oh, that person seems interesting?
Yes, it's amazing. You know how the best way to describe it's kind of a cornball way to say it, but you know what, like if you're looking for, I'm going to buy a red car. Suddenly all you see on the road are red cars because you're focused on it, right? So because I've been I've been in TV for a long time, but I've been doing this kind of thing for a long time, this art stuff that, you get to know a ton of people. If you go to stuff, and I think Facebook makes it look like I'm out there a whole hell of a lot more than I am. Okay, someone the other day said, "Are you ever home?" It's like, yeah. Facebook it's a myth, it's a falsity. You can post and people think, "Oh my gosh, she's just so busy." But I definitely do go to stuff because I want to see it, and then you just kind of hear about things. I'm trying to think. Or I get tons of emails. I mean, now that I do this, this is what I do. I get so many people who contact me. I mean, a lot of them obviously aren't going to necessarily become a focal point for our show. Right. But some of them do. And like just today, I got an email about this new show at Seattle Asian Art Museum. It's called Painting Seattle. And there's two, I haven't even looked into it that much yet, but it's two artists who, I don't even know if they're dead or alive anymore, but they're, I believe, Japanese. And they did all these paintings of kind of Japantown at some point in history here in Seattle. And the curator, some guest curator named Barbara Johns. And I thought, wow, fantastic. She'd be a great person to come on and talk about this, and we'll get great images of the show, and we'll do a 3 or 4 minute segment on her. So you're just in the air. I'm just around. I hear about things, and obviously I miss a lot of things as well. I'm not hitting everything, but yeah, I mean, I'm just my radar is always up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you know any guests coming up? Is there anybody that you're excited about or anything like that?
Oh, I should have been so prepared for this. Well, yes. Let's see. We've got some. Can you do some editing on this part?
No. Well, I don't like to edit it, but so speaking of the Facebook thing though,
yes.
I did see a picture which
Moondoggies.
Oh, the Moondoggies.
They're gonna
those guys
play.
are great.
They're awesome. They're gonna play. And this week we just shot yesterday with oh man, they're awesome. Chris Orlowski in this string, the Passenger String Quartet. Do you know about them?
I don't.
Unbelievable. It's Andrew Jocelyn who plays violin with Macklemore.
Oh, okay.
He and Chris Orlowski have founded this group. Chris is kind of this folk singer, indie folk singer guy who's great. And then Andrew is a string dude. And so they've created this fabulous band or group where they're basically doing Chris's songs. Andrew arranges the music for strings. And so we had him in the studio this week and they're going to be on the show. And there's 3 violins, a cello, Chris on guitar, and this guy, Tori, I can't remember his last name, did backup singing. Beautiful. And Chris just I think he Facebooked me or emailed me out of the blue. I had no idea anything about him.
Yeah.
So there's something good.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Is Duff McKagan going to be on it? I saw a picture. I was so jealous.
I know.
I saw your picture of him on Facebook,
Steve,
and I was just
wish you could. Okay, yes, he's going to be on this week. He has written this book.
I've heard about, which I really want to read.
It's great. I'll let you. You want to borrow my copy?
I
will be happy to let you because you seem like a very responsible guy that you won't steal it.
Oh, and I was an English major, so I respect books.
Excellent. Good. we need people who respect books. It's well written, man. He's a very good writer.
I've been reading his Seattle Weekly.
Yeah, and he's got a column in Playboy apparently too. I didn't know this, on a regular weekly deal, which is why he felt like he could write the book. But at any rate, we did a little interview with him. This is hilarious. Last Friday night, he was at the Seattle U because that's where he went back and got his finance degree after the whole Guns N' Roses thing. After he got sober, clean and sober, his pancreas exploded.
Yeah, I heard his
pancreas exploded.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like a case of beer a day or something like
that?
No,
it was 10. It was way beyond that. No, that's like chicken feet.
That's
like gravy. That's an appetizer. Crazy amounts. Like 10 bottles of wine or a gallon or something of vodka. I mean, really crazy. But he survived it. I haven't gotten to how he survived the pancreas exploding yet, but it's a good book. But we did a little interview with him at Seattle University because he was there for some alumni reception last Friday, and he's really a great guy. So it was like a 3 or 4 minute little segment with him, promoting his book, talking with him, and I was mauling him. I'm almost surprised security didn't just kind of go, okay, Miss Guppy, really, seriously, you need to back off now. Right. But he was really, really sweet. But later that night, he went to some other event. I saw this on YouTube. Did you see this?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Where Richard Lee.
I've seen that. I have no idea who that guy is, but I always would see him on public access at like 2 a.m. with his camera
ranting. He's got a whole theory about probably a lot of things, but one of his theories is that Kurt Cobain wasn't suicide, it was murder. So he's kind of stalked a lot of people. He's a very strange bird, and I don't, it seems mentally ill, but whatever. But he showed up at this talk that I saw after we were with Duff, with students, a Q&A with students on the campus of Seattle U, and he's just going off on Duff because Duff flew up from L.A. with Kurt. Not they didn't plan it, but 2 days before Kurt killed himself, they were on the same plane coming up from L.A. and they were both completely strung out on their respective substances. And so that's in Duff's book. And so Richard Lee has decided that Duff must have lots of information and can whatever. So he was there to kind of attack Duff. Yeah. And Duff finally said, did you watch the video?
Yeah, when he just kind of gets in his face.
Get the fuck out of here! It's like, oh, okay. So then he got out of there. But Duff was fantastic.
Yeah. But no, I'm really, really looking forward to that book. I read Slash. He put out a book maybe 2 years ago.
Was it good?
Oh, it was fascinating.
Oh, I'm gonna write. I have a yellow piece of paper that Steve gave me and a pen, and I'm writing. Okay, Slash's book. Do you remember what it was called?
I think it might just be called Slash.
Okay. Well, he sounded like a great guy, a really interesting guy too. So
yeah, well, because the two of them were pretty tight, and then
very tight.
The rest kind of. They weren't really tight with everybody else.
It's really when I'm about halfway through the book, and it's really kind of sad. I mean, the whole thing just blew up. I mean, there's so much drug and alcohol abuse, and just I think Axl it sounded to me like he got a lot of ideas about how he was the band and he was the main thing, and I mean that's not a good thing for any band.
Yeah, so. Well, and obviously his last album without any of those guys
Was
didn't
there
seem to
was
do
there
too
two?
well.
Didn't he put out a double album? Was it two record album?
If it was a double, it's possible. I downloaded about 6 or 7 songs
You
off the
didn't.
internet.
Yeah, you didn't download both albums if there was two. You actually said, "I'll do 6 or 7," and then that was it.
Yeah, it was. I don't even know how he can get away with calling it Guns N' Roses because it's.
Isn't that weird? I have no idea how he does.
Well, he kind of forced them all into signing away the name rights. One time, of course, everybody
Serious?
was strung out on drugs and they were about to do this show.
Yeah.
And like always, they're about 4 hours late to actually getting on stage.
That's crazy.
And Axl's like, I'm not going on stage until you guys sign this.
Wow.
So they weren't thinking, right? I'm sure they were all drunk and high or whatever. And were just like, we want to play, whatever.
Right. Fine, you can have it.
And
right.
Yeah, so Axl owns the name. And
well, what's amazing too, we won't go on about Duff, but he went back and got his finance degree, and man, he's made some very shrewd, smart investments. So he's doing very well.
Yeah, well, no, good for him, because I'm sure he was probably, high school dropout?
Yes, he was a high school dropout. Yes,
yeah, so
little punk.
Very
Total
easy
punk.
to get taken advantage of when all that money was coming in for Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't mind having a little bit of that money coming into me, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can arrange that.
Well, so is there almost live money coming in? Because one thing I was curious about, it doesn't seem like you can get like a DVD collection or everything. And
no.
I was wondering why. Because
it
seems like, especially in Seattle, that would be a huge
people.
seller.
Yeah, people ask about it. Almost Live was on the air in the half-hour sketch comedy form from like 89 or something like that till we went off the air in 99, I think. So we were all employees of King. So it's very different than being a freelancer and having a contract where you'd get residuals and that kind of thing.
Right.
Which is cool with me. I have no problem with that because I got to be in Seattle writing for television and writing sketch comedy and having a tremendous amount of control, and I was an employee. So we all were. Now, they've continued to repeat the show in reruns since we went off the air in 99, and so for them, they just sell the advertising time, and it's just pure profit, but, whatever. And the thing with the getting, like, DVDs of the best of or whatever, I think the problem is that we used, in the shows themselves, at that time, 107.7 The End was kind of one of a hot radio station, and maybe it still is, I don't know, but we used a lot of music from them in commercial breaks, and I think we used a lot of stuff that we didn't really have the rights to.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the issue is that. So that's the one issue. The second issue is someone would have to spearhead that project, and I think for whatever reason King hasn't wanted to do that. They finally started putting these sketches online.
Yeah, I've noticed on YouTube, if you just type in Almost Live, there's
stuff
tons
starts
of
popping.
them. Yeah.
So they started really loading up. There was this one guy, his name's George Buford, an Almost Live fan. He personally, for years, created this whole website devoted to Almost Live, and he was posting videos, and King kind of allowed him to do it for whatever reason. But now that King is doing it as well, so yeah. Well,
so how did you actually get involved? Because you were a University of Washington student, right? And were you doing sketch?
No. I had no designs on anything sketch comedy, anything really performance at all. I went to the U from 78 to 82. I graduated with a degree in speech communications, which was essentially a degree that wasn't particularly hard, and I could get out of school early in the day because classes seemed to be early, you know what I mean? So I could get out and have the afternoon to dink around and whatever I needed to do, go to the Frankfurter and buy, hot dogs or something. So yeah, I didn't have any. I was like, I was telling someone else, I'm a late bloomer. I mean, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. My parents basically said, yeah, 4 years, we'll pay for 4 years of school, which by the way was really cheap. A full load was like for 15 credits was like $225.
Wow!
I know.
Holy shit. Times have changed.
Times have changed. So I got out of school in 82, and for some reason everyone was getting jobs in and like being assistants to stockbrokers. I don't know why, But I couldn't even get one of those jobs. So I was working at Nordstrom in the corporate credit side, opening new accounts for people and that kind of thing. And really, really hated it, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I don't remember why this came up or why this happened for me, but I suddenly thought, okay, I'm going to take an acting class at Seattle Central Community College. And at that time, I was living in a little apartment by the Cal Anderson Reservoir Park, right? So this little tiny studio. So I'm right down the street from Seattle Central.
Right.
So I signed up for an acting class, and that was where everything started to shift for me. It was just like probably 84, maybe. And it was who I met at that time. Kind of, I just found people that I really connected with, and I became interested in the performance, kind of that world, the art, the theater world. I wasn't necessarily great at it, but I had an interest in it. That's some sort of passion for it. I mean, the first time maybe ever in my life or in a long time that I felt kind of like, oh, I might want to go in that direction. So that's what I started to do. And then I met the guy I ended up marrying. His name was Joe Guppy, and he worked at Cornish College of the Arts as a straight job, and he was also in a theater group called Off the Wall Players. And at the same time, he was just starting to get involved with this show called Almost Live, which John Keister was involved in as well. And this was before John was the host of that show. So I would get brought in once in a while to do a part, like a part that they needed a woman to do, because they had no women on staff at that point, I don't think. And then that just kind of led to me starting to try to write some sketches, and then I got hired on the show, and Joe and I were on the show together as staff people, and then we went to LA for 3 years, and then we came back in early 90s, and I got back involved with
So what was the trip to LA? Was that like a work thing? Or
Yes, it was pure. It was all about, Joe had a real desire to go to the, quote, big time. And LA or New York was where you'd want to go for that. Right. So he got hired as a cast member of a show called Not Necessarily the News, which was a sketch kind of show on HBO.
I think I recall
Do you
that
vaguely, because you might have been like 2 at that point. Let me see, because that would have been like late 80s.
Well, no,
right?
I was born in 80, so...
Okay, so you were like 10-ish.
Yeah, I think that was one of those shows that I knew I probably shouldn't be watching.
Yes,
I'd be watching
yeah,
anyway,
right, there you go.
Night.
Yeah, right, exactly. So we went down there for that. He was a on-air cast member, and they hired us as a writing team, which is fairly common in LA. So we were down there, we wrote for that for 13 weeks. They didn't pick up our option, so we were out of a job. But then we had, luckily, because it was a Writers Guild job, it was a union job, we got an agent, and so then we could start moving around to all these shows that were, most of them were just hideous and horrible, but you can make amazingly great money even writing really horrible shows. Yeah. And I don't know, I really don't know if we could have made it like with a Seinfeld or kind of a level of The Office or that kind of caliber of show, which to me is a really high level writing. Yeah. But we left after like 3 years and came back, and that's when I got back involved with Almost Live. And Joe went on to get his master's in psychology to become a psychotherapist. He was kind of like done with the whole TV thing.
Yeah. But when you came back, that was about the time Almost Live was getting.
That's when it started
big,
blowing
right?
up. Yep.
Because I remember I was living in Connecticut at the time.
Oh, and you saw it on Comedy Central.
I was watching on Comedy Central, and my brother and I loved it. And to this day, my brother and I will still do the high five and white guys.
Funny. That's so great, which is such a great bit.
Oh,
I love that.
Yeah.
High five and white guys. All right. Yeah, when we came back from LA, I met with John Keister because I knew they were doing these Comedy Central shows. They were in one summer, summer of 92, they were going to do 65 shows for Comedy Central. And I met with John, and who I obviously had a long-term relationship with, and just said, hey, I'd be really interested in being involved with this as a writer-performer, not just as a writer. I mean, not just as a performer, excuse me. And he said, he talked with the executive producer of that Comedy Central thing, and he went, okay, great. So they hired me back, and I was with them for that whole summer of Comedy Central shows, and then they asked me if I would stay on with the local show, which I said, yeah, so I did. And so then at that point, Joe and I permanently moved back to Seattle.
Cool. Was is it The Capable Woman?
Capable Woman,
Was that something that you wrote? Because I know you played The Capable Woman, and that was a sketch that you wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I rewatched a couple of that, and that seems like even though that bit would work at any time, it seems so 90s to me.
It doesn't
and
it?
Like looking at a lot of that, and like that was...
There was a 90s feeling, isn't there?
That was such a heyday of the 90s in Seattle, and like, so you were like right in the middle of it. Like, how was it to, me, like I said, I was living in Connecticut, but I was watching Almost Live and watching MTV, Comedy Central and MTV,
those
Alice
are your
in
touchstones.
Chains, like, I was just watching all this, just like, this Seattle must be some magical place.
Right, exactly. Wow, it's like a little fiefdom.
Yeah.
It was, it really was. It's hard to know when you're in it, right? When you're in it, it's just like you just are in it. That's what your life is.
Yeah.
It was really, I always tell people, I'll just say about Almost Alive, that it wasn't necessarily something that everyone loved. I mean, we certainly didn't hit it out of the park every time. There's a lot of duddy, stupid pieces we did or unfunny, and a lot of people thought we sucked.
Right.
But there was enough about the show that struck a chord that made people think, oh, I know what they're talking about, or I relate to that, or I know, that area, all the areas that we would make fun of all the time. So there was something about the city that hadn't become huge at that point, right? It hadn't become like people from Connecticut, such as you.
Yeah, well, and I didn't even,
moved here.
Necessarily look at it as a Seattle show.
Oh, see, that's so interesting. Well, that's another deal. Comedy Central wanted those local references, and at first we were like, what? I mean, they're not going to know Ballard. No one in Oklahoma, but they basically thought, well, everyone there's going to be a version of Ballard in Oklahoma, or a version of Mercer Island, or Kent, or Linwood, or whatever, Tacoma. So it was really interesting. They wanted that kind of local vibe in the show, and it seemed. I mean, a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, I really learned all about Seattle from that show."
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I'm sure everybody seems to have gone off and do their own things. Because you haven't made new episodes in 10, 12 years, right? No. But it's still, anybody in Seattle, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Any talks or anything of ever some sort of reunion or...
We did one reunion show, and it was, I can't remember, it was like the mid-2000s maybe. It was really fun to do. But no, not now. I mean, I think... this sounds really sad, but I mean, we're all just kind of too old. I mean, it's like, it would almost be just pathetic, honestly. Yeah. Did you ever see, one time, John Cleese and, do you remember the cheese shop or the parrot sketch from Monty Python? Who's the guy? Oh, God. Michael Palin and John Cleese. They went on SNL, and they redid the parrot sketch, and it was cringeworthy. It was horrible. Then the original's fantastic. But there's a time and a place, you know what I mean? And if someone else, if we could have brought, John Keister's dream or hope had been to start, if the show wouldn't have gone away, that Almost Live wouldn't have just dissipated, but new people would have been brought in.
Right.
But for a variety of reasons, that just didn't happen. And I have certainly had a number of people say, well, it'd be great if it get going again, or, new cast or whatever. It's like, yeah, man, go for it. Good luck. But one of the issues is that all of this TV stations, there's no one's locally owned anymore, right? So everyone is, all these TV stations are public entities. They're stockholders. And so the leadership isn't born and bred and steeped in Seattle anymore, right? They're maybe in Texas or wherever they are.
And they don't even know comedy.
They don't necessarily. They just know numbers. And I don't even want to say that in a disparaging way. It's just like that's the nature of what's happened with this business of TV. I mean, they still print money. Believe me, they're making a ton of money. Maybe they're not making quite as much as they used to, but they make a ton. But they're serving a different purpose now. They're not... Like in our day, it was Dorothy, the Bullitt family. And the Bullitt family, I believe they were timber, right? And Dorothy Bullitt she started Channel 9, I think. But she's the King. She started King. And she was, when we were there, she would be upstairs in her office smoking. And like, yeah, whatever. I mean, there was just like a whole different world, a different way of making decisions. And that time is over.
Yeah. Is there still good... friendships between you? Like, times when you hear about these things breaking up, everybody hates each other or something. Are you guys Still friends?
I
or
hate all of them.
all of
They're
them?
all such bastards and bitches. No, they're all great. Oh yeah, we're all good friends. That was one thing about the show. We were very it was there's of course egos. Everyone has an ego, and when you're a performer or a writer, you want your material to be done, and you've got you want to fight for things. But fundamentally, there was a very even playing field, and I really credit John Keister and Bill Stainton, who was our executive producer. They fostered an extremely fair environment where they weren't egomaniacs. So they wanted everyone to do good work. So everyone's on good terms. I mean, I don't see everyone constantly, but there's no badness, no weirdness that I know of. Maybe I'm hated by everybody. It's very possible. Believe me.
Is Joel McHale's handsome in person? Like
Yes!
He is on TV?
He's gotten better looking.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he's definitely got better looking, yeah. I think he's been doing a little work on his hair.
Yeah.
Do you kind of think that?
Well, I'm trying to go for it myself.
You've got a good hair going there.
Yeah.
You have a very good hair going there. You have a good hairline. You do. You have a very good hairline. Joel, man, he's just busted out. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
It's so great. It's just absolutely great.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I read an article, like an interview with him. I think it was in Esquire or something, and they were asking him about, I don't even remember, they were asking about some sort of like craft and acting question or something. And he mentioned you, saying that he learned a lot from you. And I remember reading that being like, oh, Nancy Guppy, Seattle.
Oh, that's
Got a
interesting.
shout out.
Well, he was an intern when he started with us. He was a UW student going to whatever. I guess he was in theater or something, and he joined us as an intern. And he was it was really obvious pretty quick that this guy has something going on, and I really just liked him as a person. So we started putting him into pieces, and I remember the very first piece he did. I can see him sitting there, and so he really he had the comedic chops. He developed some writing chops, and then he went back and got his acting degree at UW. He was with us for like I don't know how long. Then he went back and got his UW master's theater program. Then came back with us for a year, and then went down to LA.
Oh, cool.
And worked his butt off. I mean, he has worked really hard. That guy works so hard. It's unbelievable. I mean, he's got the soup. He's got community. He does tons of like gigs and speaking gigs and stand-up gigs. I mean, the guy is on fire.
And speaking of stand-up, is that something you ever considered doing?
No.
Sketch? Did you ever? No.
No, stand-up scares the crap out of me. It's a whole different deal. It's such a different deal. I mean, you got to have the material, right?
Right.
And I mean, I can be funny, or I can be, but that's a whole other deal. There's nothing I ever had any designs on at all. It's too scary. It's too scary to me. Sketch is different. It's written,
Any desire to, or do you do any comedy writing now, or any desire to get back into it?
No, I don't. I'll do comedic stuff when I like certain speaking deals I do. I don't do a lot of stuff, and pretty much everything I do is all for free. I'll MC or host or whatever. Basically, anything arts related is pretty much how I'll run it through that filter. Before I say yes to something, but and I'll always try to find ways to be funny or fun or add levity and a brightness to something. But no, I really, I wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind writing I have an idea of some little, I don't know if it's a sitcom, but it's almost like just a tiny little web thing or something. I might work on that, but not necessarily for me to be in.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
I like
kind of
doing
behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, running it. I mean, I like doing stuff now as myself. It's a really, I can do that. I don't have to put on a character. I mean, you always turn the energy up when you perform as yourself. Even doing Art Zone, of course. I don't just kind of show up and go, well, hi, welcome to the show. But I like doing it myself. I've done it. I've done sketch.
Do you still have the capable woman costume?
Oh, this is so... Okay, here's the sad thing. Last year... No, I didn't. I didn't have it. But I was asked to do something for a political event involving Patty Murray was supposedly going to be there, okay? It had to do with transportation. So these people contacted me and said, would you do a capable woman thing? Blah, blah, and I'm like, oh, well, basically, this is a paying gig. How much are you going to pay me? They tell me.
Right.
So I said, okay. So I ended up finding a costume online. I bought it. But I'll tell you, I did the event, and I found myself putting on this costume and waiting kind of in the wings to go on to do this thing in front of a big group of people at Westin Hotel.
Yeah.
I thought, you know what? Never again. This is horrible. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I'm no longer doing Capable Woman. It's over. That's done. I loved it. It was fun. No more. No more. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so I've got a question, a little story to question, because we've actually crossed paths before.
Okay.
And I've told the story a few times, and I wonder if you remember it, because so this was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I had recently moved to Seattle. I'm a writer, and so I rarely do readings because they terrify me. I hate them. And so there was the small press fair at the Crocodile. And I was asked to read there, and I'd probably only read 3 or 4 times in my life. And walking down there, I threw up in the bushes where the Whole Foods is now. I don't think the Whole Foods was there then, but I was so nervous I threw up in the bushes.
I bet there's a really the bush got a lot of fertilizer from that.
Yeah, and it was also, I was supposed to read at noon, and the Crocodile only serves mimosas or Bloody Marys before 2.
Nothing wrong with that.
And I was so nervous that I sucked down maybe 5 mimosas beforehand because I was terrified. Plus, before we moving to Seattle, I knew about the Crocodile.
Yeah.
Like it's
a legend. Yeah.
So in my head, like, oh my God, I'm gonna read a poem at the Crocodile.
Yeah.
And so, I went up there, I read my poem, and, I was representing a literary magazine at the time, which no longer exists, but we had our table. So I went up and I read, and I was so nervous afterwards. I just ran next door and went to Shorty's and got a pitcher of beer to tell myself how much I sucked and everything.
Oh, no.
But so apparently you went up to our table, and my friend Jamie was working the table, and you said, "Oh, that guy, Steve, who was that guy? I thought that guy was really good."
Oh my gosh.
And so when I finally came back from Shorty's, you were gone, and my friend Jamie, who's, she's from Washington, so, grew up watching Almost Live and everything.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, I gotta tell you this. Nancy Guppy just came up and said that you had just done a really good job." And I was just like, "Oh my God!" Like it was like the highest compliment.
You know what? I remember the event. I totally remember that event. What did you read?
I went up there. I read with Brian McQuiggan and this guy named Papi Tomas, and we had done this thing where we knew we were going to read.
Yeah.
But so we made all these rules, like, okay, we're each going to write a poem, but it has to involve like a butcher, and it has to involve certain weird stuff. So it was a pretty not very thought out poem.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I was terrified. I remember going up there. I was a little buzzed with all those mimosas.
Yeah, I would guess so.
But
oh, that's so funny. I don't remember I don't remember the content of that, but I remember the event. And I would never, just FYI, never would I have gone up and said that if I didn't mean it. No way.
Great.
No way.
It was such a compliment because I still to this day occasionally will tell some people, be like, "Yeah, well, one time Nancy Guppy said I was good."
So there, I go, "What? That old chick? Who cares about her?"
Oh no way! Your opinion is very highly regarded in Seattle. I think
that's sweet.
I think when something gets the Nancy Guppy stamp of approval, you're nobody till you've been on Art Zone.
Okay, I'll take that. I don't know about that, but I'll take that. Oh, that's so great. Wow. What a nice thing to get to meet you for face-to-face after all that.
Yeah, you know what? I think I might even somehow got your email and sent you an email and was like, "Hey,"
what'd you say?
I just like, I heard that you thought I was the best. But I think I just sent you an email saying thank you.
I had to have written back, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're just like, "Yeah, you were good, whatever." No,
there's no way. I would have been effusive.
Yeah, I think you just said something encouraging. Plus, you look young, so you probably thought I was like 17.
Oh, you still do. Yeah, you look extremely young. Yeah. That is so great. Oh, I love that. I love. I'm a big, huge believer in really encouraging people. I mean, because I want to be encouraged.
Right.
I mean, it's like it doesn't matter what point you are in your career or whatever, however you perceive yourself. It's so important for all of us to take time to encourage other people or to tell them when they're doing some good work, to go out of your way to, I mean, I write notes all the time to people who I may know or I don't know, or I'll try to find them through Facebook or email, whatever.
Yeah.
I've done that on, I saw some story on some news, PBS NewsHour, Jim Lair, who I adore. There was a story on there, and I found the woman who had done some, I can't remember what the story was, but I found her on Facebook, and I sent her a message and I said, man, you were great. That was a really nice segment, and you were so good on air. Because who doesn't want to hear that?
Yeah.
Right? Who doesn't want to hear that? That's what it comes down to.
Well, and it's so nice that you support people like that, because so many people, especially in the art world, and, it's not, I don't want to make it sound like it's really that bad, but there's a lot of jealousy and,
sure.
That's you don't ego, necessarily right? want to see other people.
No, and the thing is, I can totally relate to that. There's a certain sense of, oh no, they're getting that, I'm not going to get it. There's not enough for me, and that's something that is it's a myth that we get kind of involved in, and really, it doesn't matter shit what anyone else does. It's just what you do, right? You just have to keep doing what you do. And some people are going to get lucky breaks. I mean, believe me. I think Joel McHale, who's very talented, has had some lucky breaks.
Yeah.
Good for him. Okay. I mean, why the gods have shined on him or smiled on him? There you go. I mean, but he's also worked really, really hard. And I think anyone who works really hard and just keeps putting themselves out there and does what they need to do to try to get their stuff seen will have some form of success. But it's not about, it literally doesn't matter what anyone else does, because it has no effect on what you do ever. Yeah. It just doesn't. And if you let it, that's your own fault.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's you couldn't have said it better myself. That might even be a good place to come to an end. This has been
cut this thing off.
No, this has been awesome. You did mention that you're going to be doing one of the TED Talks November 12th.
Well, I'm not actually giving a TED Talk.
Right.
Let's make that very clear. But there's a TEDx Rainier, which is the local version sanctioned by TED Talks International, whoever they are. But it's November 12th at Kane Hall in the UW campus, and I don't remember but if you just do TEDx Rainier, you can find out. It's like a whole day of really pretty awesome speakers, and there's 3 different people who are kind of doing little intros or emceeing, and it's Bill Radke, Phil Klein, and myself. I'm doing the last section in the later part of the day. So that should be fun.
Cool. And do you have any sort of, I know you always putting updates on Facebook. Yeah. Do you have a website or a Twitter or anything like that if people... Because you always seem to be promoting stuff on Facebook.
Yeah,
so.
Right. I do. AZ with Nancy G is our Twitter, and Art Zone with Nancy Guppy is our official Facebook page, and then I post on my own Facebook page a lot too. And yeah, that's it. And anyone can, you can send me anything you want.
Cool. Yeah, and yes, Art Zone is Friday nights at 8 on the Seattle channel.
Yep.
And if I can just quick plug for myself, Thursday, November 4th, I'm going to be reading at Cheap Beer and Prose at the Richard Hugo House.
Great. With Brian McGuigan's thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Brian McGuigan and I's thing. Him and I started that together.
You did?
Yeah. He curates it. He's the face.
He's the face. But you guys started it together?
Yeah.
Nice, dude. I didn't know that.
That's one of the reasons why you saw me at the Crocodile. We were promoting
of course,
because
Brian, right.
Originally, we had a journal that went along with it. And then, you do a literary journey, you realize you put a lot of money and effort into it, and nobody cares.
And no one gives it
and
crap.
They all just end up in the recycling.
Right.
So we got rid of that.
Right. Oh, cool. Excellent. Well, that's great.
This has been great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And, thanks for asking me.
Seattle channel, 8 o'clock, Art Zone. Thank you.